Alright, good morning traders, TG Watkins here. It is December 1st, so welcome to December, and we're going to be diving into the markets and seeing what's going on today. Clearly the markets have been pulling back and having a hard time, so there are a few things, a few breadth indicators, all that I want to be showing and diving into all of that to tell you what's kind of going on here and what we can either expect or not expect. Once again, if anybody ever has any questions, come over here to profitpilot.com and then you can check out the services, and that's where you can find more information about me and what I offer. Otherwise, you come over here to the homepage and you can check out the newsletters that I've been writing. Basically, I've been guiding about this pullback for quite some time, and it's finally happening. So now we need to just kind of figure out how far down is it going to go, how long is it going to last, and if any names are starting to actually look good and turn around. So as we do that, if you guys want to start putting some names or comments in the chat box, that way I can see what's going on and if there's anything worth discussing today that you guys want to look at specifically. So for me, what I want to do is come over here to the S&P, and we've been, as I said, looking at this pullback. What I've been guiding for quite some time is looking for price to basically fill this gap between price and the daily 50. So we're starting to get that. We made it pretty close yesterday, and I took off a little bit of a short trade here, and I just don't know if we're totally confirmed yet. I know that today looks like a pretty big up day, but you know, just the other day was also a pretty big up day. So like right here was an up day, and then yesterday was a down day. We were looking at price at the 15-minute 50 and seeing if that was going to fall over. And now we are up here again, but we aren't confirmed to the upside yet. We still need to wait and see if price can hold any of these moving averages to the upside. Otherwise, we're going to keep seeing price get rejected by these overhead moving averages. So nothing confirmed yet. Yes, we've gotten the pullback. It's gotten better, but we still have a fairly long road ahead of us to really see what's going on. And what I want to show you are some of these internals. So something to really pay attention to and note, and let me get this over here, let me get the green one. Look at this. I mean, breadth has just fallen off. This is the 20-day, and this is the 50, and this is the 200. So you can see that breadth has really just taken a nosedive, basically, despite the market being pretty much at all-time highs and looking like it wanted to hover up there. We've just seen the individual stocks really falling through and below their moving averages, and so breadth has been pretty darn poor out there, and we need to be aware of that so that we can say, hey, there aren't a lot of stocks in uptrends to choose from. Now, the only good thing that I could be saying about this is that maybe we're kind of getting into some washout territory, you know, getting into some stuff that, you know, maybe this is just getting too extreme, and when things get really extreme to the downside, then they start to go on sale and discount, and people start to look at them as favorable buy areas. So that's something to consider. The other thing to note over here, looking at new highs versus new lows, is we were getting, you know, the market new all-time highs. You know, we were seeing some new highs increase. These are 52-week new highs and new lows. But the crazy thing to see, while the market was at all-time highs, is that we were starting to see 52-week new lows rapidly and significantly increase. I mean, this is something we have not seen in a very long time, and it's something I think we need to be aware of, because one other term that maybe some of you guys know about this, and you can look it up on, you know, the internet, but look up what Hindenburg omen is. And what we've been seeing is, you know, why is the market new all-time highs, and yet there are also new all-time lows being formed. Basically, we've had a bifurcated market. The market's going in two different directions, and no major correction of the market has ever happened without a Hindenburg omen, but there have been false Hindenburg omens in the past. So basically, I believe the stats are it's about 25% accurate, but a market correction never comes without a Hindenburg omen, if that makes sense to you guys. So some interesting kind of crazy weird stuff happening out there as far as breadth and just kind of underneath the surface performance of individual stocks and names, and this is some really important stuff to be paying attention to. So let me come over here, we'll go back to the market itself so that we can kind of understand what's going on here. And so yeah, we've been looking for price to come back down to the daily 50, trying to see, price was getting pretty extended to the downside. And then if we come over here and let's kind of, oops, don't want that. And then we go over to the Nasdaq. Now, the Nasdaq obviously has been the strongest. And let me go show you on a higher time frame chart because there are two things that I want to be showing. One, the Nasdaq could be flagging. We could be viewing this as a flag. Maybe price is just going to go sideways, kind of like this one back down here. You can see price basically went sideways for quite some time, and then it did, and I will say this, it did ultimately tap the daily 50, which is a moving average that I do look for support. So maybe we're getting something like that. Otherwise, if we were going to come down a little bit faster, I would have been looking at this section here to where price came back down to the daily 50 to fill that gap. So the reason I'm mentioning that is because the Nasdaq still has this gap between price and the daily 50, whereas the S&P has already hit its daily 50. And we're going to have to kind of keep a look at this because the previous area where price kind of went sideways, you can see it basically held the hourly 200, and you can see we're basically doing the same thing, but haven't really confirmed anything. And my concern is that the moxie indicator, you can see that the last time we kind of did this, you see how price is kind of chopping through the hourly 50. Notice that the moxie indicator was below zero, not really telling us much. We're seeing basically the same thing. The moxie indicator is still very far below zero. It's not telling us that this is really good or really going to get going very strongly again. And part of what I'm looking at, I talk about inverse trampoline moves all the time. So if you're not a subscriber, if you don't know about the moxie indicator, what it's trying to tell you in through here is that energy and momentum is still negative. And that's what it's saying because the moxie indicator is still below zero. And what that tells you is, generally speaking, any moves over the hourly 50 in this case, because we're talking about the hourly chart, they're false because the indicator is still below zero. So this is why I'm still concerned about the health of the market, is because if you look here, the moxie indicator is still very much below zero and has a long way until it even gets to zero. And here we are basically trying to get back over the hourly 50. So I'm not really believing or trusting much of what's going to be happening in the market right now. We could be in a whole lot more chop like this, which isn't terrible, but we're going to have to look at individual stocks and that breadth and stuff. And to really see if there are names starting to come back alive again, or if it's just going to be, the 5 really big stocks holding everything up. Hugo, good to hear from you. Let's see. You have to tell me which fib levels you're looking at, because I don't really use fibs. And then let's see. So RoxTube, let's see. What is the breadth charting about? Well, that hopefully you're understanding what I was trying to talk about with the breadth. It's telling us that a lot of stocks are below their 20-day, and a lot of stocks are below their 50-day simple moving averages, which basically means they're not in uptrends. It means that things are still pulling back, and it means that a lot of names are just kind of falling off cliffs and moving downward. Same thing with the new highs versus new lows. We've seen a rapid increase of 52-week new lows, and that's what the breadth indicators and that breadth chart is trying to tell us. Is it's kind of treacherous out there, and there are not a whole lot of good names to be choosing from despite the market at new all-time highs. Now, the IWM, it looked like it did break out a while ago, and I could see that it was overbought up and through here. That was pretty clear, and I was expecting a pullback. Now, where was this thing going to pull back to? No clue. It does seem like it's gone a little bit too far. It has gone all the way back into this flagging area that it was doing for over 8-9 months, something like that. So we are in the oversold area now that we're getting to some extreme lower areas. So generally speaking, I would look for this thing to start moving up and back to that area, but it could also chop around for a while. We have seen that to where things have gotten oversold and then they just kind of chop for a while. So we are not in an uptrend yet. We are not geared up for an uptrend yet. If anything, we're just trying to figure out when is the downtrend or the pullback going to stop. And you can just see this thing still very heavy for the IWM and for the small caps. All right, so let's go take a look at a couple names that you guys are looking at, and then I'll talk about what I'm looking at. So SI, which is a Bitcoin related, it's a bank, and they are kind of in the Bitcoin space. Pretty much looks great. I have been very communicative, very vocal about Bitcoin, Ethereum, cryptos. It seems as though they're holding up. We're seeing some activity in there, and SI is really looking fantastic. So I mean, this thing, yes, it was overbought here, and when it's pulled back, it's basically just going sideways, holding generally the daily 21, came into the hourly 200, and it seems like it's wanting to wedge to the upside. Now, I know that the moxie indicator has been below zero here. That can happen when price just starts to go sideways because it's a momentum-based indicator, and so basically the momentum has just fallen off a cliff. And we can kind of see the same thing back here too when price just went sideways. So I'm not counting this down and out because it really just looks fantastic. It doesn't care that the market has pulled back. It doesn't care that Bitcoin has pulled back. It is holding nice and tight and solid right here. That looks like a great flag. You could even just draw it. It looks just like a flag. The thing I am watching for is to see that the moxie indicator does start to turn back up and starts to get over the zero. And I do want to see price continue to hold moving averages like this. So SI is looking pretty darn good. Let me get over to Riot. And Riot also looking pretty good. Now, Riot back in the day, right in through here, issued a large secondary offering, which is why it came down compared to, say, Mara. You know, Mara just screamed up there, Hut, all those other names went up, Riot went down. Well, I would say that at this point their secondary offering has been absorbed, and they seem to be doing well, and you can even see that there has been a large increase in volume, so that is doing well. And then I put on a little note here, like a paper trade, just so I can start tracking this stuff better. Keep zooming in. Sometimes when I zoom in here, it doesn't like to take it. And what I've been looking at is price is now over and then pulled back into the daily 50. The moxie indicator is above zero. It's past earnings, all that kind of stuff. And now we're starting to see price get over and hold the hourly 50. So this is starting to look good. You can see the moxie indicator starting to turn up. We should be getting a green moxie price trigger pretty soon. So Riot's looking good. I just can't emphasize enough that I think that the crypto space is looking pretty good out there. One of the other names that I like, Hive. We've been just waiting for this thing to kind of finish its pullback, but on the monthly, weekly time frames, it looks fantastic. And then here on the daily, it's just been pulling back to the daily 50. That's what I've been seeing. And it's been fairly orderly. It's just kind of, up, down, up, down, up, down, just kind of floating back down to support, kind of like a leaf in the wind. And so, it just hasn't fallen apart. It came right back down to this nice area, which seemed to be a pretty good, solid area of price support. And then in combination with that daily 50 right there, everything's looking pretty good. The moxie indicator's been moving down, so I am looking to see if it's going to start turning up, and we'll start seeing those clues. And then like Riot, I want to see Hive get back over and on top of the hourly 50. So let me just show you then, let's do /BTC, and that way you can see what the actual Bitcoin is doing. And I'm on a slower Wi-Fi here, so you'll just have to bear with me for a moment as we get in through this. But if you look at Bitcoin, it's pulled back down to its daily 50. Now, it's made two new all-time highs somewhat recently. It was a little overextended. You can see that there was a gap here between price and the daily 50. So we're not totally out of the woods yet, but if you look at the Bitcoin miners or things related to Bitcoin, it's looking pretty good. They are looking happy, and so I would like to think that Bitcoin should resolve to the upside, but we need to continue to see that happen here on the hourly chart. You can see price has been going sideways and trying to push past those moving averages, those down moving averages, and then get on top of those moving averages. And so it looks like that process is happening, and we just need to keep watching and confirming that that's going to happen. Now, if we go over to Ethereum, Ethereum's looking fantastic. The only problem is, if this happens to be a double top, I don't think that's in the cards yet, But right now it is a double top, so I'm just waiting for price to probably settle down just a little bit and then come back up like that. A lot of times it's hard for price to just push right through a very near-term double top like that. So this could actually turn into a cup with handle like that and then move up. We don't know how long the handle is going to be, and according to William O'Neill back in the tried and true How to Trade Stocks or How to Make Money in the Stock Market book, a cup with declining handle, so a cup with a declining handle is the best. So if we can see price actually move back down into support like this and then move up, that's going to be fantastic. And then we can nab that extra piece. We can add more to Ethereum and look into that. Then if we go over to some of the bigger names, some other indexes, what I wanted to show is that there are some high flyers that have been pulling back. And one of the ways that we can see that these high flyers have been pulling back, like say D-Dog, let me get in here on this, is earnings, big move, overbought, right? We can all see that that got overbought because it got outside of the 30 ATRs and off the moving averages and very far away from the daily 50. And I had a couple live sessions with our subscribers yesterday, and I said, well, you can see right here the price ran right into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50. So for now, something like D-Dog, high flyer, still pulling back. We're going to have to wait and just see where it wants to go to the downside to find that support. But right there, very, very clear. And even here, you can see that the moxie price trigger fired to the downside, and that's when the indicator goes negative. And this should tell you, like, hey, when prices just keeps going like this, sideways, and the moxie indicator just kind of falls off like this, it does mean you should be watching out for this air pocket down here on the daily chart, especially when we saw the same thing happening with the market itself. Then we can go over to net. Net was basically looking at the same thing. And Austin, I see you and Hugo are talking about FIB extension, so great. I'm glad to see that fellow traders are chatting with each other and helping each other out, because I don't trade everything and I don't trade all the same ways that you guys do, so if you guys have something in common, that is fantastic for you all to be working together. Now net, another high flyer, but boy, look at this thing. It was getting overbought at some point. You can see that giant gap between price and the daily 50. And the one thing I commented on, because somebody from Simpler, one of our subscribers, asked me when I was on the mic, I think it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, depending on what date this was, and they just said, hey, what do you think about net? Is this still good? Is it still going to keep going up? And all I could say was, well, here's an inverse trampoline move. You can see that price is over the hourly 50, but notice that the moxie indicator was staying below zero for multiple days. And so those of you who are familiar or maybe not familiar with the moxie indicator and the principles, this is the kind of stuff that can really help you out trying to figure out, okay, one, is it a good time to go in? Or two, do I need to be really careful or cautious about something going on here? And what I can show you here is this is an inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the moxie indicator is below zero. And you can see that then it started to roll over and really, really break through the hourly 50. It happened to bounce, but then it bounced right into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50, and that was the continued resistance. So we got that, and then Google was another one that I was seeing that was having some issues. And we're just going to have to see when and where this thing wants to find some support, but at least on the daily chart, what I had been looking at, and I like looking at the daily and hourly together because they kind of give me a good picture, but what I've been seeing was here, another inverse trampoline move, just like net on the hourly. It's the same thing on the daily. These patterns and formations can show up on any time frame, and you can see here that Google had price over the daily 50, but notice that the moxie indicator was pretty far below zero. It was still significantly below zero, and you can see that there was a gap between price and the daily 50. And so this was telling us that this thing really wasn't ready to just keep going on up to the upside. And then what we could also see on the hourly chart was price kept trying to move up a little bit. Notice the moxie indicator just kept falling off, and it started to fall off a cliff. And then right there, as the moxie indicator went negative, is when price fell off of the hourly 50 and moved down. So at this point, just watching and waiting. There is no uptrend. There's nothing particularly good that we can say about Google at this point. It is still underneath the hourly 50. Now, maybe this thing is going to catch some support at the daily 50, but we don't know that yet. It's not quite confirmed yet. We're just going to have to wait and see what that's going to do. So let me kind of keep looking into a couple other names, and we'll kind of show you what's going on in the market in general. I know some people have been talking about cannabis stocks, and there's just nothing going on there yet. They are still moving down. I'm going to kind of zoom in here on ACB a little bit, and you can see that they had a little bit of a move in through here. I was kind of watching that, but it got rejected right here at the daily 200, and then they've just been moving down, so nothing going on. And then if we look at CGC, as just another example, you know, they flirted with a little bit of a move up, probably just trapping some more people, and you can see here it just got over the daily 50, but it could not hold anything else. It could not hold the hourly 50, could not hold the hourly 200, and back down again. And then even in through here, you can see price still running into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50. Basically, Cron, MJ, TL, Tilray, they're all doing the same thing. So there were a couple false moves a few weeks ago. So really nothing happening in the cannabis space. All right, then USO, if we kind of look at the oil sector, it's still having troubles. I think a lot of this might be based on, well, number one, charts, but then number two, it seems to have been accelerated because of the new COVID talk about the Omicron and all that. So the first thing to note was inverse trampoline move on the hourly chart. Price should not be over the 50 if the moxie indicator is below 0. So that was an inverse trampoline move, and then you can see yet again there's a move up here. I think I even talked about this last week, and I said, yep, I see that USO is up, but we have not tested the hourly 50, and the moxie indicator is still below 0. These are the things that I am slightly concerned about with the S&P, is that if we do see the S&P finally pop up a little bit, we're going to have to continue to wait and look for confirmation. Otherwise, these moves up are just going to be into resistance, and they're going to fall back over, because the S&P, just like USO, is pulling back to the daily 50, and USO did not hold at the daily 50. It completely ran back over at the daily 50. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm watching and waiting for. And then, yeah, for USO, it's getting oversold, sure, and it is at the daily 200, but there's just nothing here yet. It has not stopped going down. It has not confirmed any kind of uptrend yet, and it's putting pretty big drag on a lot of markets out there as far as the oil sector goes. Let's see, Snap, as far as, so Daydreamer, let's see, do I see Snap in recovery mode yet? Not really. Let me go to a lower time frame chart here. So clearly they had a big, I guess, miss with earnings or whatever that news was. And I do see that it's up. You know, basically I'd be looking at this as oversold, and it's trying to kind of, stop going down, but it's not confirmed yet, and it can keep going lower. I do see that there is a trampoline move, a potential trampoline move forming on the hourly chart, and we do have price over the hourly 50. But note, we have had price over the hourly 50 a couple times before, and it didn't work. And so what you're going to do is, if you're looking for Snap to recover and start moving to the upside, is you need to see the hourly 50 hold. You can see here that the hourly 50 did not hold. And so just because price is over the hourly 50 doesn't mean that it's actually going to hold. You have to wait until that 50 changes from a downtrend to an uptrend, and then you need to make sure price actually goes with it. And then one more kind of layer of confusion here is that you do have the hourly 200 kind of coming up here as potential resistance. So let me see if, I think it was, what is it? I know Penn was in a downtrend. And then there was the, I'm trying to think of the other. Yeah, so you can see here, like Penn, same kind of deal. It just keeps running into the underside of an hourly 50. So make sure that you don't just go buy something like that. And I can't think of the other one, the other name right now, but drawing a blank. It's the online gambling stock. So if you guys want to shoot me a name, that would help me out, because I'm trying to think of the price pattern. I was just coming across it today. and I thought that was a good one to kind of relate to. And then, let's see, Apple, some of the names that are doing well. Apple, I think, between saying that they were going to be doing or jumping in or succeeding in the self-driving car space. So that's what had that first big move. And then they did a pullback. Here is a regular trampoline move according to the moxie indicator. So price dipping just below the hourly 50 and the moxie indicator above zero. That's a high pressure, high buoyancy type trade. It's a trampoline. So you just jump on it like a trampoline, it shoots you back up. And I think this last move to the upside was based on the new phone sales. Daydreamer, perfect guess. DraftKings. Thank you so much for jogging my memory on that. So yeah, here, this is what I just want to show you based on just chart patterns, is that you can see that even though price was going sideways, 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 and you can see that the moxie indicator did finally get over zero in through here, and even price got over the 50 and over the 50, the way that I trade with the moxie indicator is it's a two-part rule. You need to have the moxie indicator over zero, and you need to have price over the hourly 50 and engaging the hourly 50. And what you can see here is, yes, we did have the moxie indicator over zero, and we did have price over the hourly 50, but they never held the hourly 50. You can see every time it popped over the 50, it failed and came right back below the hourly 50, and it just continued to go down. So for Snapchat, just keep that in mind, that while it might stop going down for now, it could just be flagging until it wants to go lower. So if it's going to go higher, we really need to confirm that it's going to go higher, really kind of in this section here, meaning that we need to see price actually stay over and engage with and follow those moving averages to the upside. So we're going to have to just kind of give this this market some time. There are some bright spots. AMBA had earnings, apparently good news, so it's up on earnings, and just based off the charts and the technicals, it did decide to bounce right off of the daily 50. There were no signals on the hourly chart. This was strictly an earnings play, which is why earnings are tough. I always say anything can happen on earnings, and you could just see that here, it looked like price was going to be falling off the cliff on the hourly chart, and then it just shot up. At least on the daily chart, it was fairly clear it's bouncing off of the daily 50. But as I said, earnings, it is up there. It's nice, and we'll have to see if this is something to just catch on a move up like this. So I hope that answers some of your questions out there and gives you a little bit more feedback about the market. Just keep in mind those breadth indicators. It's not looking super great out there. The market could still be in chop mode. It could keep going down, and we don't have too much confirmed to the upside yet, and there just aren't a lot of names to be choosing from. So just be careful out there, and we need to give it a little bit more time to see what's going on. So thanks again for your time. If you guys want to come over and get more information about me, you can come over here to profitpilot.com or simplertrading.com. And yeah, we'll check you guys out later and see you next week. Thanks.